Lust is more dangerous than you think. Do you think lust is just ordinary temptation? I have spent 20 years studying human nature, inner battles, and spiritual traps. Most people believe that lust is only about physical desires, but the truth is far more terrifying. Lust is a hunger that is never satisfied. It makes people chase after things that were never meant for them. It blinds us, damages good relationships, and pulls us further away from God's divine plan. Ask yourself, are you struggling with a form of lust without even realizing it? Stay here. I'm about to break down 6 types of lust that over 90% of people struggle with at least 5 out of 6. Let's see if you're one of them. Lust for pleasure, when feelings overpower reason. Introduction. Lust for pleasure is not just about simple enjoyment. It is an insatiable hunger. It drives people to chase after fleeting joys, regardless of the consequences. Once pleasure controls you, it turns you into a slave to your own desires. 1. When pleasure becomes an obsession. When people start believing that pleasure is life's ultimate goal, they are willing to do anything to attain it. Endless parties, gaming addictions, social media obsession, intoxicants. At first, these may seem harmless, but they gradually become chains, trapping people in an endless cycle of desire. 2. When pleasure clouds judgment. At first, people think they are in control, but in reality, pleasure begins to control them. Once reason is overpowered, they lose the ability to distinguish right from wrong. Bad decisions pile up, leading them down a path of self-destruction. 3. The price of indulgence. Proverbs 21 verse 17 warns, "Whoever loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and luxury will never be rich." Those who chase after pleasure eventually lose everything: their clarity, health, and even their soul. The scariest part? They don't realize what they're losing until it's too late. 4. How to break free. The key is not to reject pleasure entirely, but to control it. Pleasure itself is not evil, but when it becomes the master, it turns into a trap. To break free, one must return to the truth, seeking deeper meaning beyond mere indulgence. Conclusion. Lust for pleasure is a double-edged sword. It can bring joy, but it can also destroy the soul if left unchecked. Ask yourself, are you being controlled by pleasure? If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect, share your thoughts, and continue the journey toward wisdom. Lust for power. When a person craves control and manipulation over others, they gradually lose themselves. The lust for power is not just seen in dictators or tyrants. It creeps into everyday life. It can hide behind ambition, competitiveness, or the need to always be right. 1. An unquenchable thirst. Power is as intoxicating as a strong drink. The more one has, the more they crave. Those who attain power are rarely satisfied. They always want more. But in the end, they become prisoners of their own power. 2. Power can corrupt morality. People are willing to sacrifice relationships, loyalty, and even morality just to maintain their dominance. History has seen rulers eliminate even their closest kin out of fear of being overthrown. But they forget that no one can control everything forever. 3. Ambition can blind the truth. Those who lust for power often refuse to admit their mistakes. They insist on being right, even at the expense of others. But Jesus taught that true power does not come from domination. It comes from humility and service. 4. Power becomes a burden. Those who hold too much power live in constant suspicion and anxiety. They cannot tell friend from foe. They're always on guard, protecting their position. Yet, power cannot buy true peace. 5. Liberation from the lust for power. The Bible says in Mark 10 verses 43 to 44, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be the slave of all. Only by relinquishing control can one find true peace." Final thought. The lust for power can destroy a person if they do not recognize its true nature. But when one understands the value of humility and service, they gain the only power that truly matters, the power that comes from love and reverence for God. Lust for wealth. When greed takes control, money is no longer a tool, but a chain that binds people. Money itself is not evil, but when it becomes the sole purpose of life, one may sacrifice everything: family, honesty, faith, and even their own soul. 1 Timothy 6 verse 9 warns, "But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction." 1. When wealth becomes the ultimate goal. Many believe that having more money brings happiness. Yet the more they accumulate, the more they feel empty. They work tirelessly, sacrificing family dinners, time with their children, and even their own well-being, chasing after an ever-growing number in their bank account. 2. Trading morality for more wealth. When greed takes over, people lose their sense of right and wrong. They deceive, betray, and even trample on others to gain more riches. But they forget that ill-gotten wealth will never last forever. 3. When wealth replaces love. Some people are rich but lonely. They have lost everyone who once loved them because they were too consumed with accumulating wealth, forgetting what truly matters: genuine relationships. 4. The fear of losing everything. Those with great wealth also live in constant fear. They fear betrayal, theft, and that the world is waiting for a chance to take them down. But they do not realize that their greatest enemy is their own greed. 5. Letting go to find true freedom. Jesus taught, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other." Matthew 6 verse 24. Only when one realizes that money is not everything can they find true freedom. The important lesson. The lust for wealth is one of the most deceptive traps. It does not appear as an obvious evil, but creeps into the smallest thoughts. It makes people believe that just a little more will bring happiness. But the truth is, happiness never comes from material wealth. It comes from inner peace. Are you allowing money to control your life? Take a moment to reflect before greed turns you into its slave. Lust for recognition. The desire for praise, validation, and fame has always existed, but in the modern world, it has become more dangerous than ever, especially with social media. People crave likes, shares, and applause, seeking to build an image of success rather than true fulfillment. John 12 verse 43 warns, "For they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God." 1. The endless chase for approval. People hunger for admiration. They shape their words, actions, and even appearance to fit the expectations of others. But the more they chase approval, the more they become prisoners of public opinion. 2. When image becomes more important than reality. Many people care more about looking successful than actually being fulfilled. They live for appearances, polishing their social media presence, curating every detail, and fearing any sign of imperfection. But deep inside, they are empty. 3. The fear of fading away. When someone becomes addicted to recognition, they fear losing it. They constantly seek new ways to stay relevant, worried that if people forget about them, they will lose their worth. But true value does not come from applause. It comes from within. For, betrayed by the same crowd that once praised, the admiration of others is fleeting. The same people who cheer today may turn against you tomorrow. Many rulers and celebrities have been worshipped one day, only to be abandoned or hated the next. Seeking human praise is like building a castle on sand. It never lasts. 5. Seeking true recognition. Jesus taught that the approval of people is temporary, but the recognition of God is eternal. Instead of living for fleeting praise, one should seek a purpose greater than oneself, one that does not depend on public applause. The important lesson: lust for recognition is a dangerous illusion. It convinces people that their worth is measured by others' opinions. But true fulfillment does not come from applause. It comes from knowing who you truly are. Are you living for likes or for something greater? Take a moment to reflect before the desire for recognition turns you into someone you no longer recognize. Lust for knowledge. Knowledge is power, but without wisdom and love, it can become a dangerous burden. Some people relentlessly pursue knowledge, not for good, but for pride, control, or proving their superiority over others. 1 Corinthians 8 verse 1 reminds us, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. 1. When knowledge becomes a symbol of power. When someone believes they know more than others, they may start to look down on those who know less. Instead of using knowledge to help, they use it to create division, dominate, or judge others. 2. When knowledge lacks morality. Some people twist the truth, manipulate with knowledge, or justify wrongdoing. They believe that if they are intelligent enough, they can bend the rules, outsmart any system, and live without ethics or accountability. 3. When knowledge becomes a burden. Those who endlessly seek knowledge may fall into anxiety and despair. The more they learn, the more they realize how vast and complex the world is. And in their pursuit of absolute understanding, they may lose faith in the divine. 4. When man desires to become God. Since ancient times, humans have sought to understand everything, even desiring to become like God. But knowledge is not meant for self-glorification. It should teach humility and reveal our place in the universe. 5. Where does true wisdom come from? The Bible teaches that true wisdom does not come from books or self-importance, but from the fear of the Lord. A person may know everything in the world, but without humility and love, all knowledge is meaningless. The important lesson: knowledge is a double-edged sword. It can lead people to light, or trap them in the darkness of arrogance and isolation. Why are you seeking knowledge? To glorify yourself, or to serve a greater purpose? Lust for physical desires. The human body has natural desires, but when these desires spiral out of control, they can lead to downfall. From lustful thoughts and addiction to pornography to immoral relationships, these can all corrupt the soul and destroy a person's life. 1 Thessalonians 4 verses 3 to 5 emphasizes, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in passion of lust, like the Gentiles who do not know God." 1. When lust becomes an addiction. Today's world is filled with physical temptations, from provocative images on social media to pornography. These things not only enslave people to carnal desires, but also distance them from moral values. 2. When sex is no longer love. Sex is a gift from God, meant to be enjoyed within the sanctity of marriage. But when people seek pleasure without true love, they easily become slaves to their own lusts. Immoral relationships not only cause personal harm, but also break families, destroy trust, and undermine moral values. 3. When lust corrupts the soul. Physical lust does not only affect the body, it eats away at the soul. It makes people lose control over themselves, constantly seeking satisfaction, yet never feeling fulfilled. At some point, they may realize they have lost their true selves. 4. When lust pulls people away from God. A soul controlled by lust is a soul distanced from holiness. When people place pleasure above everything else, they can no longer hear God's calling. But if they turn back, God is always waiting with forgiveness and love. 5. How to overcome lust. Lust cannot be extinguished by sheer willpower alone. The Bible teaches that to overcome temptation, one must submit to God, live a life of prayer, and resist the deception of the devil. James 4 verse 7 teaches, "Therefore submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you." Desires can bind people, but the truth of God can set us free. Do not let temptations control you. Seek his guidance. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James 4 verse 7. Reflect, pray, and let God guide your path.